We've got details of these and many more if you stay with me for the next 20 minutes. My name is Josh, you're live on DSTV, channel 279. On to our very first story. Today, May 25, marks the African Union Day in recognition of the vision and significant accomplishments made towards an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa. President William Ruto of Kenya urged leaders to unite and remain resolute in order to overcome what he termed the European deceptive plan to split the continent.
Global financial reform movement considers debt restructuring. The sustainability of debt relief is a major shared concern. Many of the countries in debt distress benefited from debt relief according to the highly indebted poor countries in the 90s. It is clear, therefore, that debt relief did not automatically usher in significant economic growth. In fact, it didn't achieve much. To liberate economies from this vicious cycle, positive growth that is sensitive to climate and biodiversity agenda is needed. This is growth that builds on all our assets. African countries possess inherent competitive potential to emerge as clean, green, global manufacturing hubs. And that's the unique position we have. Instead of all the games being played, all we need to do, we are telling the world, we have our assets, we are willing to have a win-win engagement. We have the largest green energy potential, resources. The world has no choice. We cannot continue the fossil fuel-fired industrialization. It has to change. All we are saying is we are coming with our assets, come with investment and technology, we meet halfway, and everybody wins. We have made a decision, very respectfully as heads of state in Africa, that any engagement with other partners must be an engagement of equals. And for it to be meaningful, any serious country that wants to engage with Africa must respect first our architecture. If we have said we are going to be represented by the Troika, why are you inviting 50 people unless you want to sabotage the whole discussion?
And now a 9-member Supreme Court panel has in a 5-4 majority ruling upheld a decision to strike out the law allowing the cultivation of cannabis for medicinal and industrial purposes in Ghana. The Apex Court in July 2022 struck out Section 43 of the Narcotics Control Commission Act, citing it as a violation of Article 106 of the 1992 Constitution. The latest decision by the Supreme Court on the matter potentially shuts the door on further litigation.
The review application, which was filed by Attorney General Godfrey Dame, was dismissed by the Supreme Court on the basis that the threshold a party ought to meet to enable it to review its own judgment had not been met. The private citizen Ezwan Manan, whose application was upheld by the Apex Court, had argued that the explanatory memorandum that was laid in Parliament did not sufficiently lay out the policy change that was being brought by the law. The court hence held that the law was unconstitutional because there was no debate in Parliament on it before its passage into law, as required by the Constitution. This meant the earlier euphoria by advocates that greeted the passage of the law permitting the use of marijuana for medicinal use was only short-lived because the Supreme Court struck out that provision. For those who push for the legislation of marijuana, they have often argued on how such a move can help turn around the economy. They maintain the commercialization of marijuana can go a long way to create job opportunities and open up the economy, citing other countries on the continent as examples. However, in Africa, only a few countries including Lesotho, Malawi, and South Africa have legalized the use of cannabis for medicinal and industrial purposes. For instance, a 2019 African Cannabis report projected Lesotho's industry to be worth at least $92 million by 2023.
The courts have taken us as part of the process in Parliament in March 2020 when all of these things happened. And I can tell you it met every single requirement by law. Okay, it met all the standards, and I find the reason for which the Supreme Court said that, the passage of that amendment was unconstitutional as very spurious. Canada, where we go to beg for money, in the United States of America, where we go to beg for money, what do their laws say about these things? No one has given anybody the license to cultivate and smoke marijuana. That's not what Parliament did.
It remains to be seen if any further action will be initiated by the Attorney General. Lord Idwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
In reaction to this, the Rastafarian Council of Ghana has described as a setback for the development of the country the Supreme Court decision to overturn the law permitting the growing of cannabis for industrial and medicinal uses in Ghana. The Council's Advocacy Committee Chairman, Ges Bongo, argued that once the country imports cannabis-derived goods, there was no longer any justification to forbid the cultivation of the plant for commercial purposes. Take a listen.
I pity Ghana, because this is going to give us a little bit of a setback again. While the other countries are in progress, or they are progressing in this field and making and raking in a loss of money or revenue. In Ghana, we are still on the dragging stage. Even the worst thing is that we are importing cannabis products from all over the world into Ghana. We have hemp products. If you go to the shops, you can get hemp products there. I have in my room right now a cream called Kuza, which is 100% Indian hemp cream, because that law is already, the legality is working already, because in Ghana we can buy all these things in the supermarket. So I don't see the reason why these things should still be illegal. The one that I think that we should be fighting for now is the marijuana, which is the one which has the psychoactive properties, which have a higher level of THC or tetrahydrocannabinol. Those are the ones I think we should really fight against now, rather not the hemp, which is an industrial product that does not make anyone sick, or is not even something that people can really smoke. But you see, the international market is open right now, and I think we better also join it before the rush is over, because I don't think it will be the same rush that we'll be having in a few years to come. In a few years to come, the system will be changing, because a lot of other countries will be growing hemp and cannabis, and then the whole country now will be in a way that they cannot, make any sustainable revenue out of it, or any proper revenue. So it's time for us to, every country is going that way. So I don't see why Ghana cannot go that direction.
And away from that, President Akufo-Addo has given the strongest indication that government will soon return to the capital market.
Government $1 bailout package deemed crucial to stabilize the ailing Ghanaian economy. A major criticism of the current administration has been what the minority and some analysts term excessive borrowing, which resulted in the collapse of the economy. With key government persons pointing to a potential return to the capital market ahead of the IMF agreement, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta minced no words in stating there was no desire to return to the path of borrowing.
There's no rush to go back to the international capital markets. Our expectation is that in managing our expenditure and increasing our revenue, we'll have the resources to it. Working towards the capital market is important because we then get our ratings up and make the country more attractive for foreign investors, especially FDI. But rest assured that no one is rushing to the international capital markets at this juncture.
That comment and details of the IMF's report on Ghana highlighting the potential of the country losing its revenue from mineral resources and electricity sale prompted concerns. According to the IMF, 4 collateralized loans from China, which include the Bui hydropower project loans and the Sino-Hydro loans, could leave Ghana in a precarious state should government default. That notwithstanding, President Akufo-Addo is of the view the country, having secured the IMF deal, can return to the international capital market.
To position us to be able to go back into the international capital market, which had been a source of funding for us, for the first 3 or 4 years of our government.
Do you see that happening soon? Because I know your finance minister said there's no rush to get back.
There's no rush to get back, but nevertheless, obviously, why not? Can we not take advantage of global savings? It makes a lot of sense to be able to do that. And the sooner we can do it, better.
The president's position, meanwhile, comes in sharp contrast to the provisions of the IMF deal. According to the fund, debt sustainability analysis scenario assumes the government will not regain external market access until 2027. For Professor Peter Korte, government must not be in a hurry to return to borrowing.
If we are able to grow faster, we are able to overturn things, we're able to quicken the pace of recovery, I believe we can be ready to go to the capital market earlier than anticipated. However, we ought to be extremely cautious not to rush to the capital market to borrow. That should be a last resort. It should be an option that we think it is going to be invested to generate the needed revenue. Otherwise, there could be dire consequences.
On his part, the Dean of the School of Business at the University of Cape Coast, Professor John Gachi, says Ghana cannot borrow from the capital market within the next 3 years because the country is under IMF bailout. Let's take a listen.
Well, I think it is shocking because what is confronting us now is not about returning to the capital market so soon. It's about ensuring that we get our macroeconomic indicators right. It's about ensuring that we front load fiscal consolidation. It's about ensuring that we beef up revenue mobilization. It's about we do proper rationalization of our expenditure and to also record reasonable growth so that when all these things are done, we'll get better ratings from the rating agencies, and that itself will become the ticket for us to go to the capital market. So the capital market in the processes ahead of us is just the last thing to think about. The first thing to think about is about how to put the economy back to shape, discipline ourselves, and ensure that we do things properly. I don't think that we are talking about any alternative. We are talking about implementing the IMF objectives. We are talking about implementing to get the result. So if we are thinking about capital market, we are jumping the gun. I believe that is the issue. So we don't talk about alternative here. Well, I think it is shocking.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you're watching the first bulletin of the day here on the special AU Day edition of New Day. My name is Josh Quinn. We are live on DSTV channel 279. More news this morning. The country's gold for oil contracts has also drawn the attention of Professor John Gachi, who says the entire program needs to be examined to make it more transparent. Take a listen.
The gold for oil, there are things that are not very transparent about it. So definitely we need to bring it forward to become more transparent. That is needed to continue with the program. And there are other things that we can also do apart from the gold for oil. We also need to look at the fact that we have now disengaged with vigorous activities in COVID-19. So can we also look at COVID-19 taxes, the levies that we have brought into the country and take them away, to take away the burden from the people? So these are the low-hanging fruits that we can pluck quickly to shape the economy.
Away from financial-related issues, let's delve into health, because government's Agenda 111 project would not be completed until the next 5 years. The project, which is already behind completing schedule, is to be reprogrammed to be completed by 2027. The new timeline is part of macroeconomic policies and structural reforms under the $3 billion IMF bailout program.
The International Monetary Fund's extended credit facility comes with far-reaching reforms to address the country's economic challenges. Just like many sectors of the economy, Ghana's health sector is expected to experience significant changes in policy due to the program. Key amongst them is government's Agenda 111 project and the National Health Insurance Scheme. President Akufo-Addo on October 17, 2021 launched the Agenda 111 project to cover the design, procurement, construction, equipping and commissioning.
We are undertaking the construction of 101 entities, which comprise standard 100-bed district hospitals for 101 districts without hospitals, with accommodation for doctors and nurses. 6 new regional hospitals for each of the 6 new regions. The rehabilitation of the Efia Nkwanta Hospital in the Western region. 1 new regional hospital for the Western region. And 3 psychiatric hospitals for each of the 3 zones of the country.
The aim of the project was to ensure easy access to quality healthcare services. The 12-month completion period has elapsed with little work done.
It's evident that the initial schedule we gave for the completion of Agenda 111 was overly ambitious.
The International Monetary Fund, while acknowledging challenges in the delivery of key public services in the health sector as a result of acute financing constraints, has indicated that the Agenda 111 project be reprogrammed to be completed over 5 years, from 2022 to 2027, in line with budgeted allocations. Also, as part of ongoing program policies and objectives in the health sector, the authorities will seek to expand the coverage of the National Health Insurance Scheme. These objectives are well aligned with the government development goals of enhanced access to quality education, universal health insurance, and poverty eradication. Although the National Health Insurance Scheme is meant to be universal, it now only covers half of the population. Identified reform priorities by the International Monetary Fund include increasing the NHIS coverage, securing its long-term funding, and expanding its basic care package. The National Health Insurance Scheme will therefore be expanded under the program and make it more efficient. In the short run, this means clearing the stock of accumulated payables to healthcare service providers, ensuring that transfers from the consolidated fund are made on time, reducing the administrative cost, and reviewing the package of benefits and the tariff structure. As domestic resource mobilization efforts materialize, increasing NHIS resources will allow to broaden its coverage and expand the benefits package.
And now a new report by the World Meteorological Organization paints a disturbing picture of humanity pushing nature to the brink. The report, which comes out every 2 years, presents a sobering picture of the impact of human activities on the world's wildlife, forests, oceans, rivers, and climate. Nonetheless, stakeholders of the Green Republic project have advocated a communal approach and attitudinal change to significantly reverse the prevailing climate trends. As the global community strives to curb the climate crisis, action by citizens, especially the youth, would go a long way to complement efforts by government and even global bodies like the United Nations. The future of the Earth is clearly threatened, and drastic and radical measures ought to be implemented to tackle it head-on. The 3rd Annual Climate Benefit Board gathered stakeholders in the green industry to deliberate on a natural remedy in dealing with existing challenges. There were calls for government to institute concrete plans and actions to curb the menace. Managing Director of Ghana Post, Vice Osei Kufuor, championed the cause for citizens to regularly plant trees.
We should just go beyond just planting the tree, but ensuring that a tree lives. And that will be a certain commitment, that will become an imbibed attitude, a habit, something that we can grow, and it becomes just a part of us.
The Green Republic project, in a period of 5 years, has managed to plant 56,000 trees and aims to increase that to 100,000 by the end of 2023. Convener Nana Yaw Dakwa urged African leaders to take climate crisis as a serious global security issue.
We need to ensure that, for instance, every Ghanaian home should have about 4 trees. Each corner of the house should have a tree, and it's one way that we can mitigate the effects of climate change, because the basic role that trees play, is to absorb carbons, and that is why deforestation leads to the emission of gases back into the atmosphere.
The event was under the theme, Reversing the Climate Trends, No Future Without Trees. Well, let's know what you make of stories that have been aired so far. Just go into our social media platforms, TV3 Ghana, and just, drop us your comments. And this actually is the special AED edition of New Day. My name is Josh Queenan, and this is a quote inspired by a friend, Stephen Nkasa. Be a friend to everyone, but not everyone should be your friend. Thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure coming your way. And let me hand over to my colleagues, Abdul Fadi and Ijoma Balogun. Good morning, guys.